we also need to speak the language of organizational strategy if we're going to be part of that conversation. One approach that is valuable is the resource-based view of organizations, which considers organizations' bundles of resources. These could be physical capital, organizational capital, or human capital. Physical capital is physical assets. It's organization technology. It's the geographic locations and the access to raw materials to deliver the goods and services that the organization provides. The organizational capital is how the organization works. It's the reporting structure, it's planning process, it's coordinating processes, it's the systems that the organization has set up to manage internal and external relationships. Human capital are the experiences, the capabilities, the insights, and the relationships between individual employees. So in the resource-based view, we take these aspects of capital together. They're combined and managed in order to pursue a sustained competitive advantage. And so in trying to do that, these are the areas, the bundles that we manage. So, how do we actually achieve that sustained competitive advantage? Well, we have to take those aspects of capital, the physical, the organizational, and the human, and we need to arrange them in a way where they're valuable, where they're rare, where they're difficult to imitate, and where people cannot produce substitutes for them. When the firm has capital like that, then it can have a sustained competitive advantage. We often hear about benchmarking, about best practices, but when we look at that through this resource-based view, we see that it would be difficult for us by just copying what the best is that others do to create something that's rare and difficult to imitate, because by the very act we're imitating it. So it's not saying that benchmarking and best practices aren't important, because that may be how we catch up and take away a sustained competitive advantage from a competitor. However, if that is what we're pursuing, that sustained competitive advantage, we have to innovate. What does that mean? Does that mean that we have to make everything from scratch? Or can we buy and combine different things? Whether we want to take that buy or make approach, I think either can lead us to that sustained competitive advantage, and either are possible, but we often have to compare what are the costs, which is the best approach. And transaction cost theory helps us to understand that, because it helps us to understand what transaction costs are. They're expenses associated with either path, and these expenses are not just within the organization but also external expenses. Ultimately, what we can do is use a transaction cost theory to make choices, and that should be part of this process. Again, as HR leaders, we likely will be engaged in this with a team of others, hopefully if we're in that conversation. But again, it's good to understand these approaches going in the room.